Have you ever looked at people like Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs and just thought, are they built differently? Is creativity some kind of magic? A genetic lottery that only a few people win? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on all that. We're diving into the research behind the Innovators DNA. And here's the spoiler. It's not about your genes. It's about a set of skills that anyone can learn. And let's just start right there with that idea from Steve Jobs himself. Creativity is just connecting things. That's it. That's the key. So instead of thinking about innovation as some brilliant idea that comes out of nowhere, think of it as a process of making connections. And that's a skill you can actually get good at. But before we can build up these new skills, we've got to tear down a really big myth that holds a lot of us back. And that's the myth of the lone genius. So on one side, you've got the myth, right? That innovators are just some other species, born with a creative spark the rest of us just don't have. But the truth, and this is backed by some serious research, is that innovation isn't a trait you're born with. It's a set of 5 key skills. And that's fantastic news, because it means that with practice, anyone, and yeah, that means you, can get a whole lot more innovative. Okay, so if it's a set of skills, then what are they? Let's actually crack this code. What is the innovator's DNA? So the research points to these 5 core discovery skills: associating, questioning, observing, networking, and experimenting. Now, think of associating as the main engine of innovation. It's the cognitive skill that makes all the other ones work. But what's the fuel for that engine? It's questioning. So for this explainer, we're going to zero in on that core engine and its fuel: associating and questioning. Let's start with the first and honestly, the most important skill of them all. The researchers call it associating. And really, it's the bedrock of all creativity. So what is associating? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the ability to connect the unconnected, to see a link between ideas or industries that nobody else sees. And what's really fascinating is that even Albert Einstein, he didn't describe his own process as some flash of genius. He called it combinatorial play. He was just playing with existing building blocks, trying to see how they could fit together in new ways. And this is how it works in the real world. Mark Benioff, the founder of Salesforce, came from Oracle, so he knew enterprise software inside and out. But he was also watching companies like Amazon and eBay take off. So he took those 2 separate ideas and smashed them together. He asked a revolutionary question: why are we still installing software when we have the internet? And by connecting those 2 worlds, enterprise software and Amazon's online model, boom, Salesforce was born. I love this metaphor from Walt Disney. He didn't see himself as the grand master artist. He thought of himself as a little bee. He'd fly around from the animators to the writers, the engineers, gathering metaphorical pollen, different ideas, and he'd cross-pollinate the entire studio. That's the essence of associating. You gather all this diverse stuff so that you're ready when a surprising connection appears. Now, making those connections, that's powerful. But remember, the engine needs fuel, and that fuel is questioning. Innovators are constantly asking questions. But here's the thing. It's not just that they ask more questions. They ask a fundamentally different kind of question. This quote from Ratan Tata just nails it. Question the unquestionable. Innovators don't just accept the way things are. They challenge it. They poke at it. They ask why. Okay, look at this difference here. An incremental question, like the one on the left, just tries to make the current thing a little bit better. It's useful, for sure, but it keeps you in the same box. But a disruptive question, like the one A.G. Lafley asked at P&G, completely reframes the problem. It's not about a better mop. It's about a person's life. And that question led to things like the Swiffer, which didn't just clean floors better, it completely changed the whole job of cleaning. So the big takeaway here is that innovators have a super high Q/A ratio. In any meeting, in any conversation, they are asking way more questions than they are giving answers. They just get it. They know that the path to a brilliant new answer always starts by asking a better, more provocative question. Okay, so that's all the theory. But how do you actually put it into practice? We've talked about what innovators do. Now let's talk about what you can do, like starting today. Here are 2 super simple exercises to start flexing those innovation muscles. First, think about a challenge you're dealing with right now. Now just force yourself to ask what if 3 times. What if we combined it with something totally random? What if we got rid of a key piece of it? This forces you to associate. Second, take a problem you have and rephrase it as a question. So instead of saying, our sales are down, you ask, in what ways might we create totally new value for our customers? See that little shift? It opens up a universe of possibilities.
And all of this brings us to this final thought from A.G. Lafley. He reminds us that innovation isn't some lightning strike. It's a choice. It's a daily choice to connect, to question, and maybe most importantly, to just be curious. So the real question isn't for some innovator out there in the world. It's for you. What will you decide to be curious about?